Alright everybody, so now here we are at fifth question. Let's have a look at the question, what the question is. So it says, how would you make samples of a data frame for the analysis purpose, right? So the first question comes into the mind if you are not into it much, right? So the first question which will come in your mind is, why do we have to make a sample of it? So let me tell you, usually what happens, you get the size of data which is quite huge. Maybe you might get records in billions or in millions, and it will be difficult to do some initial analysis on this huge size of data. So what we do is we make samples of the data and then perform our analysis, and if it fits to the requirement, then or maybe if it looks significant, then we apply it on the whole data, right? So the whole data is called population, and what you take out of that as a sample, that will be your sample data frame. If you want to have better understanding on what sampling is and what population is, how do we do the sampling, what all are the different techniques of sampling, link is given in the description section. Sorry, what is section? Description section, right? So just check that out. Okay, now let me take you directly to the Jupyter notebook and help you understand how you're gonna do this, right? So here we have this data frame. Now if you see the size of this data frame, then you will get over here we have 1000 records into this data frame and 5 columns. So though the size is not too high, but I'm keeping it I have taken it just for learning purpose, right? But in practical life, when you are working in certain company, you will get the data which will be quite huge in size, let's say 10 million, 12 million, 50 million, or in billions also, right? So that's where it becomes important to make a sample of it, right? So here you see, here I'm just showing top 5 records of the data of those 1000. Now let's say out of this 1000 I want to make a sample of 20 records, right? And those sample I do not want to keep biased, so I want to keep them, I want to make them random. Okay, so how can I do that? So for that what I'll do is this data frame name, and then I can say sample, and let's run this. Okay, so here you see it is just giving you one record. Again you click, it is giving you another record. So if you see, every time you'll get a different record over here, right? But this is just giving you one record. And if you want to make sample of, let's say, 10 records, so what you're going to do is you use a parameter which is called n, right? And you write just 10. So here is what you get. So now you are getting sample of 10 records. Every time you will get the 10 different records, right? Now there is another option. If instead of using 10 number of records, if you want to make it, let's say 10% of the entire data frame, if you want to pick, right? So for that you have a parameter which is called frac, and in that you can just put float, which is 0.10, right? So which is equivalent to 10%, right? Now here you are going to get 10% of the data, which will be 100 rows, which makes sense, right? 10% of 1000 is 100. Okay, so you are getting 100 rows. So this is how you can make sample basis on fraction also. Now there is, again I will just make it I'll make it back to n equals to 5. So I'll be making a sample of 5 records only. Now if you many of the times it happens when you are making multiple samples, you don't want to repeat the same row in multiple what we call it, samples. Okay, so for that you have another parameter which is called replace, and here you can say false. Okay, so this is going to keep the records, I mean it will not allow the records to be repeated. Now if you make it true, so this will allow the records to be repeated, right? So if you make multiple samples out of this data frame, then this particular parameter will allow you to keep the same rows. I mean it will allow one rows to come in the multiple samples. Okay, this is how you can use this. Now there is another parameter also which is called random state. If you set it to false, so it will not make the samples random. So usually we don't want to use this because we want to make a random sample, right? So this is how you can make multiple samples of one data frame. If you want me to explain it more, and if you have any particular doubt, put that into the comment section. I'll make a separate video for that.